Hello, I'm Karen Taylor and welcome to this tool selection demonstration brought to you by the Service Desk Institute. I'm joined by Abdi from Hornbill.
Hi Karen.
Hi Abdi, could you give me a really brief overview of you and your company?
Sure, I'm Abdi, I'm the commercial manager over at Hornbill. Hornbill's got 2 decades of experience in IT service management, and we're really trying at the moment to leverage that experience to come up with some innovative ways of addressing some of the key challenges that our customers and our prospects bring to the table.
So what is it about Hornbill that makes you stand out from other suppliers in the market?
So we believe that through delivering a collaborative approach to service management, we can really empower service delivery teams to better address the challenges that they have to address for their customers. And collaborative ITSM is something that we've come up with, which basically amalgamates the best practice ITSM functions with innovative communication and mobile technologies to really address the challenge of communication within the service desk, along with trying to address challenges such as the constant need to upgrade your software and the overall cost of implementing software. So we've taken away those 2 challenges completely. We don't charge for implementations, and we provide a solution that's always up to date with no upgrades.
That's great. Can you just expand on the collaborative ITSM world?
Sure.
And how you really bring the knowledge and connect the user to the expert?
Sure. What we've tried to do is tap into what we're pretty much accustomed to outside of work with our sort of consumer tools nowadays, which is I'm always connected to people I know, I'm always up to date with the stuff that's happening, and everything that's important to me is right there in my pocket. So we've tried to bring that into play in the work context, if you like. So what you'll find with Hornbill, it's a very familiar interface if you use any of those sort of consumer tools outside of work. And I've got a news feed, and in my news feed is all the stuff that really matters to me. And that comes from various sources. The first might be that I'm following a particular colleague. It might be that I'm following a particular workspace, and a workspace is a way of being able to capture information in regards to a particular subject or topic. And a good example of that would be to perhaps drill in and show you the first line FAQs workspace. So the concept here is that anyone in the first line, and ideally not just the first line, because you want some other expertise to be brought in here, are members of that workspace. And it could be a project, or as I say, in this case, the first line sort of FAQ area. And the general principle being is that I can come in here and I can either post something, say, make everyone else aware of, or I could ask a question, as we can see in the example here. So in this particular case, James has asked a question. A couple of his colleagues have actually tendered responses. In this particular example, we've actually got colleagues working in different languages that have put forward a response, which again, I can quickly translate using some technology that we're using here to allow me to communicate with colleagues in different languages as well. But the most important thing here is that actually from that pool of expertise, 4 other people have actually come back and said, this is the right answer. That's the way to solve your problem. So that's great. It solved James's problem today. We call this tacit knowledge. It's the stuff that's just walking around in people's heads, not easily documented, but it's there. And if we can tap into and be able to reuse that knowledge, that becomes really, really powerful. So I'll just show you an example of that. If I go in here and we quickly type in VPN, for example, what we get here is a list of results, effectively. But if I was to narrow that down and just say I'm interested in this particular workspace, you can see there's a couple of really good examples there of information that's being captured conversationally, if you like, but now is presented back as knowledge.
I think there's 2 really great features there that stand out for me. I think the first thing, from a service desk management point of view, you're really starting to bring in the second and third line teams into one with the service desk. And secondly, it's the visual aid there on how useful that article was. It's really clear and precise, isn't it?
Sure.
So that's really great.
Excellent. So one other thing just on that in terms of knowledge, we haven't forgotten sort of traditional knowledge, because obviously people like to have documentation. So within here you can still use our document manager app, which allows you then to come in and upload what you might call traditional knowledge documents. And in doing that, what we end up with is the ability to bring in whatever documentation we want, tag it. It's all got ownership. I can share it across different individuals, different teams. But again, a document's a social object in our world, which means that you can follow that document if it's important to you. Each document has a timeline, and each time that's revised, it's automatically marked as revised. And if I'm following that document, that then gets pushed up to my newsfeed as well, which is fantastic. Great. So the last area where we really try to focus in terms of bringing in the experts is on tickets themselves. So if I just drop down here into a particular request very quickly in my request list, you'll note obviously from a sort of visual perspective the ticket is very clear in terms of where we are. We've got this heads up display at the top, which shows me the 3 stages that this process is going through, but also the waypoints or the checkpoints that we need to meet. But in terms of knowledge, what I might want to do is bring in an expert to help me out, because that's typically how it works out. I know that Karen's the expert in a particular area, or I want to bring in the change manager. So perhaps I might drop in here and actually search for the change manager in this particular instance. So let's go and put in Rosemary, and we'll add her into this ticket. Now, the reason we're adding Rosemary is perhaps she doesn't normally have the rights to see this queue, for example. So we've elevated her rights, but it's more about bringing and engaging the expert. And in the same token, I can also come in here and actually mention, which is a function that we're pretty familiar with outside of work, perhaps a bit more than we are inside of work. But I could mention Rosemary and put a comment in there, and once I update that, that mention would go out to Rosemary, and she'd get a notification that would pop up in her notifications or on her mobile to say that you've been mentioned on this ticket. Click the link to come in and provide the guidance or help that's required.
That's really useful, isn't it?
Sure.
And how about real-time analytics? How do we get to that?
Yeah, so there's two areas we've tried to focus on. The first is the analyst, and the second one's obviously from a more of a management perspective. So in the context of the analyst, if I drop in, this is my request list where I perhaps spend most of my time working my queue. So in this instance, what we have is the ability to obviously come in and see all my tickets in my various different teams. But if I open up, there's all my tickets. But I might want to bring this into more of a graphical view. So I can create filters and associate those filters to dashboard widgets, if you like, and I can then visualize that data in the way that you see here. The other option, obviously from a more of a management perspective, is the ability then to start to do some trend analysis. And so what we're doing here in terms of trend analysis is being able to effectively create measures, and the trending engine built into the Hornbill platform allows you then to define the frequency you want to snapshot that data, define some targets, if you like, and then it basically goes on in the background snapshotting that data. That, amongst other data, can then be used to create widgets, and widgets then into dashboards. And just to give you an idea, here's a series of 4 dashboards that have been, if you like, chained together and put up on a big screen. That comes up sort of like this, which is quite nice, really visual, and you can see that all the way across the room.
Yeah, and I think again from the service desk, it's really important for your analyst to be able to see exactly the types of calls, when they're coming in, and the volumes, isn't it? So that's really good. And how does your tool really help me support my business processes?
Sure. So we've focused a lot on business process, and it's the core of running a good service desk is having good processes. So built into the Hornbill platform is the concept of a very powerful sophisticated business process engine, and it's very easy to use as well, which is also a big bonus. So if I drop into this particular change here, you can see that this particular process has 4 stages mapped out, and on each of the stages you can come in then and lay out your process as you need it to be, and whether that's decisions, authorizations, expiries on authorizations, all of that stuff's catered for, and it's really straightforward to set these up. Really straightforward. Coupled with this, we also identified a challenge in terms of capturing the information you need to drive your processes. So, you're probably familiar with service desks today. Most of them have an incident or a change form that has 30, 40, maybe even 50 fields on there. And the biggest challenge you have there is not the amount of fields; it's the training that's required to bring somebody up to speed on what's required in each instance. Yeah. And so we've tried to address that in a very simple way. And in order to do that, we looked at the consumer space, and we've all bought insurance online. You never get 50 fields in one go. You get a couple of questions, and they drive where it goes. So the concept of progressive capture is very straightforward. Basically, you have the idea that we present a question, and based on how that routes, it takes you off in the next place. So just to demonstrate really quickly how that works, if I come back out here and we go back to my newsfeed, I'm just going to pick out an incident from my newsfeed, and we'll progress that in terms of actually raising a change off the back of that incident. So just to show you how that progressive capture works, if I click on change, so automatically it's pulled through the information from the incident and populated the first question for me anyway, which is great. It's now presented me with a singular question that says which service is this relating to. So I'm going to go with desktop support for now. Do I want to categorize the call? And again, the process of defining this is all visual, so it's really straightforward and easy to do. We may want to add an asset in here. Let's just put in, I don't know, the finance printer, for example. Let's link that in. And in doing that, we can then finish logging that change. Okay, so really straightforward, easy way to basically bring information into the system.
Yeah, that was really quick, wasn't it?
Yeah. So what the BPM's actually done is actually brought me to the right place, because it's looking for me to make an assignment effectively. So if I assign that off to myself, Graham, hit assign, you'll note that it's actually created a task here, which has then been assigned off to myself as well in this context as Graham. So if I bring that task into play and we hopefully put some better notes in than I'm doing here, you'll see that that's now validated that, and from a visual perspective the processes sort of indicate that we've moved forward. Just another quick task here to move that and assess that as a low impact change. and that takes it forward. Now, what that's done now is actually put it into a stage where we're actually looking for some authorization. And so what's really nice about the Service Manager application is that we have the concept of boards, which allow me to actually visually see where those changes are. So as we step through each of those changes, we can see the changes that are moving forward here. But if I was to pick up that one there, which is looking for the approval, and I was to authorize that myself in this particular instance, I'm just going to take you full circle back to the newsfeed. What you'll note is that actually having authorized that, it's now sent out a notification or a broadcast, if you like, which anyone who is following the change management workspace would now receive, and would be, informed, if you like, that change is about to happen.
That's really good. And finally, what 3 words best describe Hornbill?
So the first one I'd put forward would be collaborative. So Hornbill's platform is collaborative at its core, if you like. It's not a bolt-on collaboration function to a service desk. We have a platform that's collaborative that has a service desk application on it, if you like. The second one I'd put forward would be powerful. We've just had a look at the business process. Fundamental to running a successful service desk is having good, robust processes and making sure that that's not too complicated for the end users to use. And the third one I'd put forward would be innovative, in as much as Hornbill are trying to innovate not just with the product, but in terms of the way we approach the market. So we don't, as I said earlier on, we don't expect customers to have to do any upgrades. You never have to plan, execute, or pay for an upgrade again with Hornbill. And best of all, we actually implement the tool for free.
Abdi, that was a great overview. Thank you very much
No
for
problems.
that.
Thank you.